Dallas, the year 2000. Two men from California walk into the headquarters of the most powerful video company on earth. One is a math teacher turned software guy named Reed Hastings. The other is a marketer named Marc Randolph. Their little company is bleeding money. They have a proposal. They offer to sell the whole thing for $50 million. The company across the table is Blockbuster. 9,000 stores, a blue and yellow sign on what feels like every corner in America. And in that room, according to Randolph, the executives go quiet. Then they start to fight back a smile.
They were struggling not to laugh.
The two men fly home. The deal is dead. The name of their little company was Netflix. Now hold the picture. The room, the smile, the $50 million nobody wanted. Because today, Blockbuster is a single store in Bend, Oregon, the last one on the planet. And Netflix is worth more than $400 billion. Here's the part everyone gets wrong. Netflix did not out-muscle Blockbuster. A company this small does not outmuscle 9,000 stores. The giant beat itself, and it beat itself with the exact thing that made it a giant. This is the story of the late fee, the laugh, and the contrarian bet that almost died twice before it won. To understand the laugh, you have to understand the machine. In 2000, Blockbuster is not just winning. It is the category. Around 9,000 stores. Tens of millions of members. You wanted a movie at home? You got in the car. You drove to the blue and yellow building. And you rented a tape. And here is the engine underneath it. The thing nobody likes to say out loud. The late fee. In 2000, Blockbuster makes $800 million in late fees alone. Not from renting the movies, from you forgetting to bring them back. About 16% of the company's revenue, $1 in every 6. Think about what that means. Blockbuster's single most profitable product was its customers' guilt. Their best day was your worst day. The forgotten tape on the car seat, the $40 charge on a movie you watched once. You know this feeling. You've paid this fee, keep it in your chest, the whole story turns on it. And here's the trap, already set, years before anyone springs it. A business that profitable is a business no one inside will ever vote to kill. The late fee was not a flaw in Blockbuster. It was Blockbuster. Remember that. Now, the two guys, Reed Hastings is not a Hollywood man. He taught high school math in Africa with the Peace Corps. He built a software company, sold it for real money, and walked away with a restless head and no idea what was next. Marc Randolph is a marketer who has started things before, a man who likes the zero of a company, the empty beginning, more than the empire at the end. Do not lose Randolph in this story. The myth will try to make it one man. It was two. In 1997, they carpooled together up and down Silicon Valley, throwing ideas back and forth on the drive.
That will never work.
They keep landing on one question. What can we sell on this new thing called the internet, the way Amazon sells books? They try everything in their heads. Then they try a DVD. They mail one to Hastings' house to see if it survives the trip. It does. The disc arrives intact for the price of a stamp. That is the whole company in one cracked open envelope on a kitchen table. Two guys, a postage test, and a hunch that the store on the corner was not forever. You've probably heard the famous version of what comes next. The story goes that Hastings rented Apollo 13, returned it 6 weeks late, got hit for a $40 late fee, and was so angry he invented Netflix to kill the late fee forever. It is a perfect story, a clear villain, a righteous spark. It is also, mostly, not true. Marc Randolph, the co-founder, has said the late fee tale was
a convenient fiction.
Emotionally true, he says. Factually, no. There was no single furious night. There was a long commute and a question about the internet. A journalist later went looking for the rental in Blockbuster's own records. Could not find it. Convenient fiction. We tell you this for a reason. The myth says Netflix won because one man got angry. The truth is colder and better. Netflix won because of what the giant could not afford to stop doing. Hold on to the real $800 million. Forget the made-up 40. They launched in 1998, DVD by mail, and it barely works. Because at first, Netflix charges the way Blockbuster does, per rental, with due dates. They are just a worse video store with a slower counter, the United States Postal Service. It is failing. So in 1999, they throw out their own model and kill the due date. One monthly price. Keep the movies as long as you want. Send them back whenever. No store, no counter. No late fee. And they add the thing the corner store never could. A piece of software that learns what you like and tells you what to watch next. They call it Cinematch. A store has shelves, Netflix has a memory. The longer you stay, the better it knows you. So now look at what they have built. A company whose entire promise is no late fee, aims straight at the one number Blockbuster cannot live without. That is not a product decision, that is a loaded gun, pointed at $800 million. And in 2000, the two men pick it up, carry it into a room in Dallas, and offer to hand it over for $50 million. So why would they sell? Well, because in 2000, Netflix is dying. The dot-com bubble is bursting. The money that funded every internet dream is vanishing overnight. Netflix is small, unprofitable, and burning cash it does not have. Selling to Blockbuster is not a victory lap. It is a rescue. The pitch, by Randolph's account, is not even buy us. It is a partnership. Let Netflix run Blockbuster online. Let Blockbuster run the stores. Build the future together. $50 million. And the room goes quiet. And the smile starts. A note on the record, because this channel does not flatter the truth. The man often named in the room is CEO John Antioco.
Nobody felt the company was worth $50 million at that time.
Has since said he was barely in that meeting and that the story got sensationalized, maybe. And here is the thing you have to sit with. From inside the giant, that was the right call. The people who said no were not fools. By every number they had, they were correct. Netflix was tiny. The internet was slow. Mailing DVDs was a strange little business. Blockbuster had 9,000 stores and $800 million a year in late fees. Why would the king bet against his own crown? This is a trap with a name. A Harvard professor named Clayton Christensen called it the innovator's dilemma. The better a company gets at what it does, the more impossible it becomes to walk away from it. Every instinct that built the empire screams at you to protect the empire. Blockbuster's strength was the stores and the fees, so Blockbuster's strength was a cage. To beat Netflix, the giant would have to attack its own best business. Burn its own $800 million. No executive who wants to keep his job proposes that on a Tuesday. A small company has nothing to protect. That is not a weakness. In this story, it is the only real weapon. Netflix can beat the whole company because the whole company is almost nothing. Blockbuster cannot bet anything because it has everything. Hold that for a second. It is the engine of the entire firm. But first, the small company nearly dies anyway. Netflix flies home with no deal and a near-empty bank account. The bubble takes the rest. The funding dries up, and Hastings does the brutal thing. He lays people off. He cunts the company to the bone to keep it breathing. This is the part the founder myth skips. Before any of the winning, there's a year of Reed Hastings deciding who stays and who goes so the lights stay on. The red envelope is not a triumph yet. It is a thing two men are trying to keep alive while everyone around them is burying companies exactly like it. Remember the room in Dallas. They were not arrogant. They were drowning, and the giant watched them go under and counted it a lucky escape. And then Hastings does the opposite of flinching. With the company bruised and the markets terrified of anything with a .com in its name, in May 2002, Netflix goes public. It raises about $82 million, 600,000 subscribers and climbing. Sit with this symmetry. The company could not get $50 million for the whole thing 2 years earlier, just convinced the public markets it was worth more than that. Barely, but enough. And underneath the numbers, Cinematch is quietly compounding. Every disc mailed teaches it something. Every rating sharpens the next recommendation. The store in the corner cannot do that. The store forgets you the second you walk out. Netflix never forgets you. The habit hardens, one red envelope at a time. Netflix survives its first near death, and up in Dallas, the giant goes back to counting late fees, certain it has dodged nothing at all. Underneath the subscriber numbers, something is compounding that Blockbuster cannot see and cannot copy. Cinematch, the recommendation engine. Every disc mailed, every star rating teaches it a little more about who you are. A store has shelves. Netflix has memory. In 2006, Hastings does something that shows you how much he believes that. He puts up a prize, $1 million to anyone on Earth who can make the recommendations 10% better. For 3 years, thousands of engineers on teams across dozens of countries go to war over Netflix's own algorithm, for free, for the sport of it. Sit with the asymmetry. Blockbuster spending its energy defending 9,000 leases. Netflix has talked the planet's best minds into sharpening the one thing a video store can never have. A machine that learns what you want before you do. The giant is guarding a building. The upstart is building a brain. Neither is watching the other. Only one of them is compounding. Here's what almost nobody remembers. The giant woke up. By the mid-2000s, Netflix is real, millions of members, and inside Blockbuster, John Antioco does the hard thing, the right thing, the thing the innovator's dilemma says is almost impossible. He attacks his own machine. In 2004, Blockbuster announces it's ending late fees. The $800 million engine, he starts switching it off on purpose. It costs the company a fortune, and he does it anyway because he can see what is coming. Then in 2006, he launches Blockbuster Total Access. Rent online, return it in the store, swap it for another movie on the spot, mail, and stores. The one thing Netflix could never offer. For the first time, the giant is not defeating, it is attacking. And Antioco is a rare big company CEO willing to set fire to his own best business to save the company. Root for him here. The story needs you to. And it works. It really works. By early 2007, Total Access has pulled in around 3 million subscribers. Blockbuster's best subscriber growth quarter ever. Netflix's growth slows, and inside Netflix for the first time, people are genuinely scared. This is the moment the giant could have won. Not back in 2000, here, with the answer built in its hands and working. Think about how close it is. The incumbent with 9,000 stores has finally married the thing customers loved about the upstart to the thing only an incumbent could offer. If Blockbuster simply keeps going, keeps spending, keeps Antioco pointed at the future, this is a different story. The giant adapts. The upstart gets squeezed. That is the version of history that almost happened. And then the giant's own body rejected the cure. Ending late fees and funding Total Access cost a fortune. The stock dipped, and a corporate raider named Carl Icahn had bought his way onto the board. And to the board, Antioco had burned the cash cow to chase a math teacher's mail order business, and it came to a head over money. His money. Antioco was owed a bonus of about $7.5 million. The board tried to cut it to roughly 2. They settled near 3. And a CEO who has just fought his own board over millions while trying to reinvent the entire company does not stay. In 2007, John Antioco is out. His replacement is a retail operator named Jim Keyes. And Keyes does what the empire wanted all along. He pulls back on total access. He turns the marketing down. He defends the stores. He protects the crown.
Neither Redbox nor Netflix are even on the radar screen in terms of competition.
He saved the late fee business, and in saving it, he killed the company. That is the thesis, and it is not really about Netflix at all. The strength that made Blockbuster unbeatable, the 9,000 stores and the $800 million, is the exact thing that would not let it survive. The giant did not lose because it was stupid. It had the right answer, built, and working. And its own gravity pulled it back to the thing that was killing it. Meanwhile, a few hundred miles and a whole universe away, Netflix quietly turns on a new feature. You do not have to wait for the red envelope anymore. You can press play. Streaming changes everything. And at first it changes everything for Netflix. The red envelope has a ceiling. There are only so many discs you can mail. The internet does not have a ceiling. But streaming has a catch, and the catch will matter later. Netflix does not own any of it. It is renting movies and shows from the studios to stream to you. In 2008, it strikes a deal with the premier channel Stars and suddenly has thousands of titles to stream for cheap. For a while, the studios are asleep, and Netflix is paying pennies for the future. The subscriber numbers go vertical. In the summer of 2011, the stock touches about $300 a share. Reed Hastings is named Business Person of the Year. The man laughed out of the room in Dallas is now the most admired operator in technology. He has won, and this is exactly the moment he nearly destroys it. Hastings decides to split the company in two, streaming on one side, DVDs by mail on the other, and to charge for them separately. For the customers who used both, the price jumps about 60% overnight. The backlash is instant and enormous, and instead of backing down, he doubles down. In September 2011, he announces the DVD business will be spun off into a new company with a new, clumsy name, Qwikster. It is a disaster. Customers revolt, and they leave. In a single quarter, Netflix loses about 800,000 subscribers. 800,000, roughly the number Blockbuster once laughed at. Now it is walking out Netflix's own door. The stock collapses. From around $300 in July, it falls to the 60s by the end of the year. Roughly 80% gone. This is the second near death, and the cruelty of it is that it is self-inflicted, not the giant, the hero, with his own hands, nearly finishing what the dot-com burst started. But here is the difference. The difference that is the entire point of this channel. Hastings could stop. A small, founder-led company can turn on a dime, eat the humiliation in reverse. The giant never could. 23 days after announcing Qwikster, Netflix kills it. And Hastings does the thing Blockbuster never did. He apologizes publicly, plainly.
I messed up. I owe everyone an explanation.
He keeps the company as one thing. He takes the hit. Even his own stock options get cut over the debacle. He absorbs it.
There is a difference between moving quickly, which Netflix has done very well for years, and moving too fast, which is what we did.
And notice what just happened against the whole arc of this story. The founder, facing the exact trap that killed the giant, chose the humiliating reversal over protecting his pride. Blockbuster protected the late fee. Hastings let go of Qwikster. That's the whole difference in one decision. And then, bleeding subscribers with the stock in ruins, he placed another enormous bet. Remember the catch with streaming? Netflix never owned the movies. Well, by now the studios have woken up, and the price of renting their catalog is climbing every year. Netflix is building the future on land it does not own. So, Hastings decides to own some. His content chief, Ted Sarandos, wants to spend $100 million on a political drama. 2 full seasons, directed by David Fincher, starring Kevin Spacey, greenlit before a single scene is shot. And Fincher gets total creative control, no notes.
The goal is to become HBO faster than HBO can become us.
Hastings, by his own account, thought it was reckless. He did it anyway. In 2013, Netflix releases House of Cards, the whole season in one night, made by a company that mailed DVDs 15 years earlier. It changes television forever. The subscribers come back, and they keep coming, by the hundreds of millions. Before the company falls, picture one store, not the corporation, a store, the kind with a teenager behind the counter who knows the regulars, a back wall of staff picks, and a line out the door on a Friday night. For 20 years, that store was where a town went to decide its weekend. When Total Access was winning, that store was part of the comeback. Then the marketing went quiet. The mail customers drifted to the red envelope, the shelves thinned. The Friday line got shorter, and then there was no line. The people who worked there did nothing wrong. The company protected them right out of the future. By the end, the blue and yellow sign was just a landmark for a thing that used to happen here. One by one, across the country, the lights in those windows went out, 9,000 of them. This is what an innovator's dilemma looks like from the sidewalk. Not a stock chart, a dark window where the line used to be. And the giant, while Netflix nearly killed itself and recovered, Blockbuster just kept protecting the crown. By 2010, the company's carrying about $1 billion in debt. Debt it inherited when it was spun off from its parent company, Viacom. And debt it kept piling on to defend stores nobody was driving to anymore. When the financial crisis hits and the credit markets freeze, Blockbuster cannot refinance. In September 2010, it files for bankruptcy, Chapter 11. The 9,000 stores begin to go dark. Here's the honest part, and we are going to give it to you straight. Years later, Jim Keyes argued that Netflix did not kill Blockbuster at all, that the debt and the frozen credit markets did. And he's partly right, but ask where the debt came from and why there was no future to borrow against. It came from a company that spent everything to defend the stores and the late fee, instead of becoming the thing that replaced them. The giant did not get stabbed. It got too heavy to move, holding on to the exact thing that once made it strong. So let's go back to the room in Dallas, the year 2000, the quiet, the smile. For years, that meeting has been told as a story about idiots, the fools who said no to Netflix for $50 million. It's not a story about fools. The people in that room were smart. By their numbers, they were right. Even Antioco, the one who later tried to save them, could not save them. That is what makes it a tragedy instead of a punchline. Blockbuster had 9,000 stores. It had $800 million a year in late fees. It had Total Access, the winning product, built and working in its hands. And every single one of those strengths became a reason not to change, until the not changing was the only thing left, and it was fatal. The giant did not get beaten by a better company. It got trapped by a better business, its own. Reed Hastings and Marc Randolph had no stores to protect, no late fees to defend, nothing to lose. They were laughed out of the room precisely because they had nothing. And nothing, it turns out, is the only thing light enough to bet. There is still one Blockbuster store, Bend, Oregon. People drive there to take pictures, the way you visit a grave, and every time you press play tonight with no due date, no counter, no drive across town, no late fee. Remember where that came from. It came from two guys who got told no by someone bigger. The next time someone enormous laughs you out of the room, remember what they're actually telling you. They're telling you they have too much to lose, and you do not.